Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this here daily part 2, where we're learning to be a better gamer, and where I don't hit the right buttons on my video mixer. Part 1, we talked a lot about Liquid HerO's build. Excuse me, I didn't even say the topic. We're looking at HerO's ability to perform in a situation that most Protosses would give up in. How does he come back? How does he adjust his strategy after the tragedy of losing his natural expansion? I shouldn't even use colorful words. Most Protoss players feel completely and totally screwed when the natural expansion goes down. How do you readjust the strategy? That's what we're looking at. Part 1, we established how HerO's build kind of had a clear long-term vector to it. I'm going to shut my window since there's people outside apparently. Yeah. You like these new jeans? My belt isn't centered. But that's right. You don't need to have good fashion if people only see the shirt. OMG, that t-shirt's so imba, it must be nerfed. Now let me tell you what part 1 was about, right? We just saw this build from HerO. It had long-term potential. Ooh. We saw why things were going down, and I think most importantly of all, we remembered that you can't just build the counter blindly. It's pretty easy to hold off this attack from heart if you're certain it's coming. But this is not the game that we play. Paper beats rock. But knowing that doesn't help us. We have to know when he's going to throw rock. We have to prepare a strategy that can beat both rock and scissors, and by God, paper as well. So, the thing that we looked at painstakingly at the end of part 1 was the fact that Hart doesn't have a lot of stuff back home. Largely only barracks units, not a lot of other infrastructure. So suddenly, what do we not need to worry about? Lots of units for a little bit of time. So cool, we don't need a rush for another Colossus. A single Colossus is going to be just fine. We don't need Blink. He probably doesn't even have Medivacs yet. We can easily delay that. Sentries, one of the easiest things to just sort of auto-default to. Getting a upgrade, the cheapest upgrade we can get, is another excellent tool. So first we're going to see HerO go to a very inexpensive composition. Zealots and Sentries. And what HerO is going to be slowly moving into will be the Templar tech. But very, very slowly. We talk so much about the Colossus and the Stormers, but the big tool for us to stay alive in all this is going to be the Immortal. Amazing against Vikings, amazing against Marauders, really good against Marines, provided that you actually have Sentries. So that is going to be the biggest thing of note throughout this. Now, okay, look. There's a reason I paused before this. Because saying, dude, if you ever lose your expansion Nexus, dude, you gotta get Dark Templar, okay? Because I say that as a joke. We want to talk about the long-term plan before we talk about an intermediary tactic. The long-term plan is going to be using Immortals as a stepping stone unit to get up Templar tech. I explained the Immortals and explained the long-term Templar tech thing. In the immediate, Immortals make sense because he's not going to have a terribly large amount of Marines. He's not going to have Ghosts, really, because he doesn't have those gas geysers. He doesn't have a lot of infrastructure. So Immortals are going to be a really solid unit. And then soon enough the Templar tech, because it's very unlikely for him to have Ghosts. And we can just win by having a more efficient army. But this Dark Shrine makes sense as a sort of intermediary tool because of this sort of thing. These units being rallied forth. If we actually look at everything that's going to be going on, Hart is only just now getting up his Medivacs. So whereas before it was like 10 minutes that we'd be worrying about the Medivac push, it's now going to be around 12 minutes. And at that point in time, he's going to be hitting our front, and we want some tool to be counter-aggressive, and that's what the Dark Shrine is. There's a lot of seemingly completely different moves that a Protoss player can do that are basically the same thing. War Prism, Harassment, Dark Shrine, or massive gateways with proxy pylons. These are basically the same thing. These are all ways of saying, if you attack me, I'm going to hit you back. That's it. That's all that they're really doing. This is one of the cheapest. I would say that it's probably the least effective of those three, but we know for a fact that he is kind of stifled given his setup. We know that he's going to be on our side of the map. In particular, we're pretty damn certain that he doesn't have an engineering bay and hasn't had one for a while. So great. A lot of gateways for counterattack harassment would be great, because we want to attack him while he attacks us. I would say that almost every Protoss build order should have a I can attack you if you attack me play. So cool. We see Zealots and sentries galore. Just a few sentries. A lot of Zealots being produced. None of this saving up for additional gateways shenanigans. We really kind of have to keep making units to stay alive. This is another reason why the Immortal is such a strong tool for us. Great. Dudes are going to be going back into the gas in a moment. We're seeing everything just flood out. Oh yeah, I totally forgot about Mothership Core, and it seems like so did HerO. That should be popping out pretty fast here. But great, there's the Immortal. Here's our big long-term play. The single forge is our big long-term play. Other than that, oh baby, we're staying alive. Staying alive! You'll notice, no charge. None of that. Just investing in the now. When would we need charge? If we were intending on doing some big attacks back. That's one of the biggest zones where we'll need charge. My ADD's totally distracted me. What was I gonna say? No, can't remember it. Oh well. So we have the Dark Templar moving in here. We have the additional gateways moving in here. I think that it's fair to say, well, charge is obviously excellent at engaging any Terran army in any place. We have some force fields to reinforce these zealots, so that sort of replaces that need. So in this moment, why not get charge instead of these two gateways? And the big answer is, right around 12 minutes, we need to start worrying about being able to have lots of stuff in different places. If we had slightly more predictable control, such as if we didn't get totally screwed in the early game, this would be a much more, this would be a much easier decision to get down the charge, because we could be throwing down a bunch of gateways right now. But charge is sort of last on the docket in this mix. DTs for defense, oh, so good. You see that, you know, some workers get killed off by HerO, but not like stunning quantities. Dark Templar for drop defense. Aw, yeah. So this right now is actually going beautifully for HerO. Especially this little counter drop that he's killed off. It says 7 workers, but it's kind of like a little more than that because he's killed off some turrets. Still hasn't been the most amazing seeming recovery, but constant chrono boost on the Immortal. Soon enough, we're going to see more forgey stuff go down. And HerO knows that he doesn't need to do many other different decisions because of this beautiful pylon right here. Counterattack and doing all sorts of fancy damage like this is great. This can't possibly be bad. However, this signifies to us that our Terran player is trying to end the game pretty soon. Now, without going into the fact that we can see exactly what he's building, I mean, we see a second starport and that sort of thing. Think of all the stuff that we can conclude based upon our simple analysis in part 1. The simple analysis being, if he does do this attack, he's messed up his infrastructure and is probably low on gas. Alright, cool. If he's not taking a third, he's probably trying to end the game right now. In what ways could he end the game? Mass barracks units, trying to flood with some Vikings, or trying to flood with some ghosts? I mean, that's about it. So this one Colossus is going to have a lot of utility. He's not going to have as many Vikings, but the Vikings he does have, we can't deal with so well. We could have built Stalkers to help this Colossus stay alive, but now we would just have a few Stalkers and like 1 or 2 Colossi, and we would be overwhelmed pretty much by barracks only. So HerO's transitioning away from that. He's saying, I invite Vikings in. And with this amount of Zealots, unless the opponent does make Vikings, this Colossus is going to do obscene amounts of damage. So HerO is essentially forcing at least some Viking-based response. And, you know, if he can't... If you're feeling unconfident, you always can have the single observer poke in here. I mean, that is always a tool as well. But the Immortals in this phase, this massing up of Immortals and then following up with the charge, will allow us to deal really, really well, even if he does transition over into some Ghosts. We're already pretty reasonably upgraded. He just can't really have enough gas to get a lot of Ghosts and to be at big upgrades. I mean, if you just look at this, he has 5 Vikings. He has +1. I mean, if you really went for Ghosts, you'd have to invest another 100 into the... Ghost Academies are 50. I have thought my whole life they were 100. I actually did not know that. Wow. Wow, that's a real shocker. Ooh, wow. I've played this game every day for like 3 years. Oh my gosh. The things you learn. Okay, so a trivial amount of gas for the Ghost Academy, but then he has to build, what, 2 or 3 Ghosts, and he's already equaling the cost of 5 Vikings with those 3 Ghosts and that Ghost Academy. It's really hard for Hart to have an intimidating amount of Ghosts, in short. Nice lean force. The sort of secret, mysterious benefit that HerO is gaining by going for this Immortal Zealot force is that if you look at this army cost, it just is very light on the gas. We haven't had these geysers for a while because he killed the base. Very gas-light composition, allowing us to get the key gas upgrades that we really want. Super cheap. Alright, great. We sort of knew that was coming. Here's attack number 2 coming up. We noted that Zealots would charge. Oh yeah, we noted that without Vikings, the Colossus would be able to deal massive damage. With Vikings, totally gonna go down. We can't have built any Stalkers. HerO's staying very intelligently focused. And even though these Zealots are not going to be doing that much amazing amounts of damage, because we're a little bit late on the charge, the Immortals are going to do serious work here. So let me just highlight the amount of Marauders in this force. Marines tend to be the first ones to go, just because they have lower range, so they're in the front. So a little interaction with the Zealots and the Photon Overcharge will sort of naturally take those out. Immortals are perfectly good against Marines too, but now, in this position where HerO seems completely dead, these Immortals are gonna do some work, baby. I think there's another one trundling its way down. No, just the 3. Immortals are my favorite unit in this matchup, man. I'm not gonna lie. And let me tell you something that baffles... it's still baffling to me. I've watched this game probably like 10 or so times before this daily, and like still in this very moment, I'm like, now how the hell does HerO have more supply than Hart? Like I want to actually come to just as that battle was beginning, as the Colossus went down. Look at this. 128, 113, Colossus has just fallen. DT is nice. It'll get scanned and picked off pretty quickly. But again, we're seeing sort of natural death of the Marines in the front lines. One of the reasons why charge is not as essential as the immortals and the upgrades. Because the immortals can just do some work. They can just do some serious work. This is one of these kind of funky consequences. HerO's, most of his decisions are very simple and pre-made because there's no third here. Now, I'm kind of overlooking the fact that there is also no third here. Or, excuse me, and we know this because I can go to the look at everything camera. But HerO really kind of needs to be spotting the third here. If HerO knows that, then this is like super easy. And if you can't get that scouting information up, I will just say that is a fine assumption to make. If you really can't get it, assume a situation where you know what you're doing and just go with that. I think that that sounds weird. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get weird reactions in chat to that. If you can't get the information you need to make an informed decision, assume that you got the sort of information where you really know what's up, and then just do that. Having played in tournaments for like a decade, I promise you, Little Big 11, teasing me in chat. It is far better to execute the incorrect strategy that you know how to do really well than it is to try to be very doubtful and figure out what you think is the best thing. Like, always. And it's not just assume the worst. It's that if you can't get the information you need, assume that he's doing something you know how to beat and do that answer. Right? Like, God, I'm getting teased so hard. People are like, dude, that makes total sense. I don't know why you think that would be weird. And other people are like, no, no. Oh, it's so good. And we see this Dark Templar counterattack. Again, Dark Templar warp prisms and mass gateways with proxy pylons all are essentially the same. I am going to attack. I have a tool to attack you when you are attacking me. I like this choice when we can't get vision and we don't have an observer to pick up vision because we need this one to stay here. DTs are great. Probes are great. Because this expansion is dead, we are going to be cut hard from our gas income, so we see just a very gas-light income. Gas-light army. Immortal, Zealot, with a couple of sentries in the army tab, we see very, very gas-light force. More Dropas coming up. It gets tickled. The whole army can comfortably pull back because that Dark Templar was there, as in this army can pull back into the main. Alright, nice. Can do more war pinnings. Yep, we see the Dark Templar. And after just some exceptional defense. Now, if for some reason Heart started to lay off, we would simply go for Templar. We would just throw down our Templar tech and begin expanding if we saw a third here. But since we don't, we just continue to assume the worst. Or not assume the worst, we just assume that he's being aggressive. And that going for Templar would be bad. And would kill us. Now here's a move that I just would not do, ever. I don't get this move at all. I don't. I think that this move is weird. This is way too easy to happen when you do that maneuver. I don't get this. I don't get it at all. I actually feel that this is an incorrect play. Even though HerO held that off, I think that this is rarely going to have a lot of benefit, other than forcing him to be passive, and I think that that could have been accomplished simply by going to this Xel'Naga Watchtower. I don't know. I don't know, you guys. We see High Templar Sturms. We see the Sturmers. We're going to see the expand. The expand is happening effectively because HerO now knows he's safe. A third base here, you heard me say, is a great trigger for taking this. Same logic. If he's taken that third base, then you are safe, so you can take your HerO attack. And then Hart tries to do his second round push. I just want to note in the midst of this attack, this is a 1-0 Terran who is broke on gas, who has no ghosts. This is the reason why, after that first initial failed attack, that was very aggressive, actually, and then we saw it followed up by no third. That's why it's a great idea to begin meandering towards Templar tech. Not rushing for it, but meandering towards it by using these Immortals as a big intermediary, because it'll just crush his big Marauder force. So, nice. I mean, I think the biggest, the most important things in this second part that we saw were building-wise, relying on the Forge to get those upgrades out. Because right now, HerO is 2-1. This is one of the biggest reasons for his success, that he has simply out-upgraded his opponent in these small fights. We saw that the Immortals were the big stepping stone unit throughout this. A big tool, because if HerO loses his expansion, he doesn't have the gas that he needs to get up Colossus and other expensive things. Immortal Zealot, perfect intermediate thing, because he's pretty much just going to be going bio without ghosts. That's the big threat that you're going to be dealing with after he's done his first big successful attack. And the third, and also key bit, is that the counter-attack Dark Templar was the most reasonable tool at that time to permit him to apply a little bit of pressure back to his opponent, because of things like Twilight Council being done. So when we come back in part 3, we're going to look at another game from HerO where he doesn't get battered down as badly, but Hart is still extremely aggressive with two-basing stuff. And we're going to see some similar themes arise and emerge. See you for part 3 in a shirt view. In a shirt view.